Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the difference between judgment and accountability. And one of the things that I've noticed with so many people, especially in today's society, everybody has a platform. It's beautiful. The business is lucrative. You know, we all have the ability to grow our brands and our businesses, and it's great. But one of the things that I'm noticing with so many people, the space is so convoluted with opinions, you know, and you have people who are in these fields and they may be accredited in the fields or they may not, but everybody has an opinion, but it doesn't always come from a space of like sincerity. You know, I feel like a lot of people lack empathy and compassion. And when it comes to judgment, first and foremost, I think that we are all judged, like we're all judgmental. You know, I think to say that somebody's judgmental is like, because and the reason why I say that, you know, whether or not your judgments are positive or harsh or whatever, you know what I mean? But like when it comes to judgment, you guys, everybody has an opinion. Everybody looks at, you know, a situation or a person and they form an opinion in their mind because we all have a very unique perspective. And that's beautiful, right? That's like a great contribution to humanity. But I've just found that so often people will, you know, use what it is that they know and then just make a conclusion based on that. And not very often are people willing to kind of like step into a space and, you know, change the way that they think or the way that they view something, you know, because that's uncomfortable and it's unfamiliar. And we're not sure if we can trust that, you know what I mean? Because why would I change this perspective when this is a perspective that I've always concluded, you know what I mean? And this is my perspective. This is what's true to me. So to look at it, I think from a different lens is like, that's scary, you know, and I say it's scary because it's unfamiliar and we don't know whether or not we can trust it. And then I feel like the main thing that I'm also seeing is that everybody's just so quick to kind of just throw like, I'm not going to say it's unsolicited advice, but like not really sound advice, you know. Now, sometimes you have people who, you know, they are sound and they have sound advice and they can help you and counsel you and get you in a better space. But I just think overall, man, like, it's so important to just be a person who's like empathetic and compassionate, you know, in your business and just any endeavor that involves collaboration, you know, because people need to be heard. And I think that people most importantly want to be seen in that sense. And people want to be understood, you know. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand, yes, sometimes you're going to be misunderstood, and that's fine. But I think overall, that's like the basis. Like everybody wants to feel as though they, you know, they fit in that sense. And I think we could just take that back to like the animalistic, you know, caveman days when we talk about like tribal and things like that. But like, it's just crazy, man. And so what I found with people is like people just kind of want to throw their opinions or, you know, and I don't think that it's always in a negative sense, right? Because sometimes, you know, what people have to say, like I said, can be beneficial. But what I'm finding is that oftentimes that's so not needed. You know what I mean? And what's needed is compassion. And what's needed is somebody to kind of step into that space with their own testimony, you know, and sit with that person and just listen to that person. You know, I don't know why, but it's like everybody just kind of wants to just be like this big shot. And it's like, oh, let me just show what it is that I know, you know. But the reality is that we kind of all know like some of the same things. Most people anyway, because everybody's kind of reading the same books, right? If it's trending, most people picking it up, most people reading it, most people tuning into the higher ups, right? Those who's got like that notoriety in that sense. And so it's kind of just like, okay, that's not really a unique perspective. You know, like I heard that over here, right? And I don't think it's a bad thing, but I just think that overall, like, that's where a lot of people are going wrong and that's where people are lacking. And to me, it just saddens me because it's like you have so many people who do not speak from experience. Like, how you going to get on a platform, and this right here is judgment, y'all. Like getting on a platform or even stepping into a space where you're speaking about something that you've never been through. Like, how do you even feel like? How do you even conjure up an idea to tell yourself, let me get into this space and let me speak to something that I have never been through? Like, do you know how easy it is to look at people and say, this is what's wrong with them, this is that, but you ain't never even heard this person's story. You know, you don't even really care to hear it because what you know is all you know. You know what I mean? And I think for me, that's the one thing that really upsets me oftentimes. And we are so reluctant to just hear a different perspective and a different opinion. Everything is just like so regurgitated these days. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you got mommy issues, you got daddy. Like, okay, what, can somebody tell me something new? Can we talk about it on a deeper level? You know what I mean? Can we talk about it in a way that's going to ascend instead of bring a person down? Like, you ever notice so I'm noticing, like, with some platforms, I think that people have an intention, right? And they mean well, you guys, they mean well. But the communication is so off. And that's why I say I think that oftentimes it's like lacking compassion and empathy, because, you enter into these platforms with people, and they're talking about certain things and they're giving advice, but you feel like crap after. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that this person had that intention. Now, don't get me wrong, you guys. I'm going to talk about accountability in a second here, but like, to me, that's not, if it doesn't sit right within your spirit, then I don't know. Like, I feel like anytime, if I'm in a space and I'm sharing something personal, or I'm, in a space where I'm looking to be cultivated in a way, like, yes, criticism is definitely important, but at the same time, it's like, I would want to leave a platform, or leave, the space feeling uplifted and motivated and inspired. You know what I mean? And maybe looking at my own self saying, all right, now it's actually time for me to stop judging myself. You know what I mean? Because I think that's the biggest thing too. Like, we really judge ourselves like the harshest, like, I'm so hard on myself sometimes. And it's like, I feel like if anything, I want to leave without that, because I'm already doing that, and I feel like so many of us are. And I think another thing too, is like, people talk, but they're never really talking from a space of like relation. It's like, okay, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to talk down and let you know, where you messed up, or what you need to do right, or what you need to do wrong. But it's never really coming from a space of like, all right, I understand, because I've been through that. Or let me tell you about it when I was there in that space. You know what I mean? Let me help you. Let me tell you what worked for me. You know what I mean? But oftentimes the thing is like, most people have never even, I'm not going to say most people. Let me back up. Some of these people on these platforms, and some people that you may know in your life, they haven't been through nothing. Like, if you haven't been through anything, how dare you get up on a platform, or get up on a space and tell people what they should or shouldn't do? How dare you look at a person's situation and try to judge them? You know what I mean? Like, that's so bold to me. You don't even have the humility or the credentials to even step into that space. And I'm never the type of person to say, sit in a space of like sadness and sit in your mess and sit in those spaces. But at the end of the day, I feel like you're so courageous if you're the type of person and you've went through some stuff and like you own it, right? You've accepted it. You're dealing with it the best way you can. And like it like confidence, you guys, it rises and it falls. You know what I mean? I know people say, oh, you're so confident. And I am a confident person. But at the end of the day, you guys, I'm human. You know what I mean? I'm human. Like, it rises and it falls. Some days you feel great about yourself. Sometimes you feel like you're on the top of the world. And then some days not so. And then some days you're just chilling. You know what I mean? Like, you're human. And I think that's a normal state, and that's okay to be. I feel like it's the social media that's, got everything so perfect. You know what I mean? But that's just not life. And there's nothing wrong with you for having a bad day. There's nothing wrong with you for not feeling productive today. There's nothing wrong with you being affected by your environment and the weather. Like, you do realize that, right? Like, the sunshine literally has a positive effect on your mood. And the same is true for darkness and things like that. And so it's like, there's nothing wrong with you for being in that space. But yeah, like, so oftentimes we judge ourselves like the harshest, but yeah, so I know for me, and it's so true. Like, I don't really want to hear about anybody who is not brave enough to tell their story in a sense to where it's like, it makes sense and it's understood and it's real. You know what I mean? And I'm never saying, like I said, you guys, it's not a matter of staying in your space and don't allow anybody to victimize you. But at the same time, it's like, if you can own your stuff, like, I feel like that just makes you 10 times more just credible for everything that you want to do. But I don't know. There's even times with myself where I feel like underqualified. So like I said, it rises and it falls. But yeah, and so when it comes to accountability, this is different. Like, accountability is when you're in a space and like you're looking at something, and it's not really necessarily just like your own perception, but it's like, okay, look, yes, you've been through this, but you got to get out of that. You know what I mean? And at that point, that falls on you. And that right there is uplifting, right? Like, that right there is uplifting. And that's saying, okay, I hear what it is that you've been through, and I understand what you've been through, and I hear you, right? I see you, I hear you, but you're great, and you got to push yourself together, and you got to push forward, and there's no reason for you to act this way because you've been through that. But I hear you, you know what I mean? And I see you, and I feel you, and I understand. But you know what I mean? The way you got to take care of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that right there is accountability. And I think that oftentimes too, it's like, man, it's just crazy to me to just see, what the extremes that people will go to, you know what I mean? To not be accountable. It's like everything these days is so one-sided. Like, it's crazy. You could sit here and have a conversation with a person and be like, you know what? Yeah, you're saying that, but you actually kind of, that's not right. Or, that's not the best way to do that. And it's like, what? You need to do, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like there's so much of that. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much of that. And like, being accountable is just one of those things that's like, it's just so rare. And it's like, you just kind of have to hold yourself accountable at this point. You know what I mean? Because it's like, so many people I realize, like, are not willing to step into those spaces. You know what I mean? And be accountable for their actions, but at the same time be in a space where it's like, okay, I realize my actions, and I realize, the outcomes that this has put me in. I think it's easier to play the blame game. You know what I mean? And I think it's easier to say that, oh, this person is judging me, but the reality is that they may be just actually holding you accountable. You know what I mean? To being your higher self and being a better version of you. But like I said, I think when it comes to accountability, it's one of those things that don't count. Like, when people hold you accountable, it's not one of those things that's going to put you down, and I think this is where, like, just the premise of, like, communication and all that is just so major, because it's like, if somebody's going to be, I don't know why I just said that, because I feel like that just totally changed the tone of the whole conversation. But seriously, you guys, like, if somebody holds you accountable, I think that's one of those things where it's like, okay, this person's holding me accountable and this is uplifting me. I may not like it, but at the end of the day, I know I'm going to leave feeling inspired because I know that I can do better. You know what I mean? Versus judgment, where you leave feeling like crap and you're like, man, this person's great and look at me. You know what I mean? That's the difference. And I think and I'm not going to say it's based in emotion. It's more so just based in, like, how it settles in your spirit, I guess I could say. But yeah, you guys, so that's a super major thing. And, it's just important to be mindful of who you get counsel from, and if you have people out here trying to tell you what to do with your life and you don't really know where they started or, where they come from, why you want to trust that? You know what I mean? Like, to me, I just think that's bold. Like, I think that's just kind of bold. And, I don't know. I think it's just kind of important to be in a space where it's like, you don't have to necessarily know the ins and outs of, like, everybody's life. But at the same time, I know if you're going to be in a space, it's kind of like there has to be some level of openness. Does it not? Or, you know what I mean? I don't know. So, yeah, you guys, that I think for me, that's kind of like the difference between judgment and accountability. And I'm going to leave you guys with your thoughts. I know this conversation was kind of brief, but just kind of wanted to touch on that tonight because that was something I noticed. And okay.